Welcome back to Montana this morning. Time now is 6:44. We have a shot of the beautiful sunrise from the Stockton Bank weather cam this morning. 30 degrees to get us out the door, and it sounds like weather won't be too bad temperature wise. What else is in store? Miller has those details in just a few minutes with the forecast. Let's go ahead and jump into news. We begin with the latest on the 30-car pileup on I-90 over the weekend. Two brave Lodgegrass teens are recovering this morning after they fell 60 feet trying to help a mother and her two small children. 17-year-old Gage Whiteman and 19-year-old Celia Poitra were in one of the first vehicles to crash. Their grandmother was with them and says the teens immediately jumped into action trying to help people. When they saw a car dangling over the bridge with small children inside, they ran over to try and pull them to safety, but vibrations from other crashes carried the teens over the edge. Both Whiteman and Poitra have broken bones and other injuries.
Celia and Gage looked back and they said, "There's babies and that car's going to go over the bridge." And they jumped off and they were gone while they were trying to get those two babies out of that one car. And then next thing, they were gone, they said. And Gage said all of a sudden it just shook and then we were on the ground.
Gage and Celia were not able to help the family before falling. Another man was able to pull the children out of the car. A GoFundMe has been set up to help the teens as they recover, and you can find a link in this story at ktvq.com. To the latest now on the pandemic, more than 49 million Americans have already gotten at least one shot of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines. And starting this week, the one-dose shots from Johnson & Johnson will be available. The executive director of Montana's COVID-19 task force says our state should get just over 1,000 of those. CBS's Deborah Alfarone tells us why health experts say Americans should jump at the chance to take any vaccine they can.
Nearly 4 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will start shipping out this morning.
So this is a much easier logistical vaccine to administer.
It's the third coronavirus vaccine to receive an emergency use authorization from the FDA, the first that requires only one shot.
A really impressive vaccine because it is refrigerated, not frozen. So I'm very enthusiastic about this vaccine, and I truly believe whichever vaccine you can get first, take it.
While the efficacy rate to prevent getting sick from COVID-19 isn't as high as Pfizer or Moderna, trial data shows J&J is 100% effective at preventing hospitalizations and deaths.
I will take the first one that is offered to me. I want that protection as soon as possible.
Johnson & Johnson projects 20 million doses will be available by the end of this month and 100 million by the end of June.
We're going to get tens of thousands of additional vaccines per week, per state. It's just going to get us to the finish line that much faster.
Pfizer and Moderna have promised 600 million doses by the summer, meaning every American who wants a vaccine should then be able to get one.
And we're not done yet. There are at least 2 or 3 other vaccines that are in trials right now.
Among them, vaccines from Novavax and AstraZeneca, which are finishing U.S. trials before submitting applications to the FDA. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News.
The AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine has proven successful against the variant first discovered in the United Kingdom. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine has also been shown to be effective against other variants in its trial. And while the variants remain a concern, there is some hopeful news coming out of COVID-19's front lines. The number of people in hospitals infected with the virus has fallen below 50,000 for the first time in nearly 4 months, and the rate of infection has slowed. There are just 68 patients admitted to Montana hospitals with COVID-19. A little over 1,700 cases are active in the state. It is a crucial week for President Joe Biden's nearly $2 trillion stimulus package. The House passed their version of the bill over the weekend, and now the Senate will likely pass one this week. Raising the federal minimum wage to $15 remains a sticking point for some Democrats, but they don't have the votes to include that in the package in the Senate. Democrats want to pass the bill before bonus unemployment benefits expire on March 14th. As new COVID-19 relief awaits approval from Congress, lawmakers are laying the groundwork for more long-sought aid. The White House wants an infrastructure package that would boost spending for things like roads, bridges, and electrical systems. Democrats say it's particularly important for Texas right now after a winter storm ripped through the state, causing power outages and water shortages. The aid is expected to be expensive and get some opposition from Republicans. A White House proposal could come later this month. President Donald Trump spoke publicly for the first time since leaving office in January. Trump was greeted with a warm welcome at the Conservative Political Action Conference. CPAC attendees were polled and overwhelmingly supported another President Trump run in 2024. Second place was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. In his speech, Donald Trump continued to claim victory in the 2020 election and hinted that conservatives who hope he runs again may get their wish.
Actually, as you know, they just lost the White House, but it's one of those things. But who knows? Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay?
The former president says he has no plans to start a new party like many had theorized. He says he's not interested in dividing the Republican vote. The Supreme Court will hear a major voting rights case tomorrow that could decide how states conduct their elections. Justices are specifically looking at a case about Arizona restrictions on ballot collection and a policy that penalizes voters who cast ballots in the wrong precinct. If the court rules in favor of Arizona, it would make it harder for people to fight voting restrictions in court. Civil rights groups say this would disproportionately affect minority voters. One of the nation's most prominent governors says he will cooperate with a sexual harassment investigation. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo made a public statement yesterday acknowledging that some of his behavior with women may have been too personal at times. Recently, 2 women who worked for him came forward with allegations of sexual harassment. One of the women says Cuomo would ask inappropriate questions about her sex life. New York State's Attorney General will lead the investigation. Thousands of people from Central America are fleeing their native countries and heading to the United States. It was a frequent news story in 2018 and 2019, but President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration discouraged many from trying to get in. Now more migrants are hoping they have a better chance of getting in with policies set by President Joe Biden. The new administration is trying to end Trump's more restrictive immigration policies and says it will admit more asylum seekers. They also say now is not the time for people to come, citing the pandemic and policy changes are not yet complete. Iran says it has no plans to discuss its nuclear capabilities. The country rejected an invitation to discuss the nuclear deal. President Biden has said he would consider reviving the nuclear deal, but only after Iran comes back into compliance. Iran says it will not negotiate anything while sanctions remain in place. The 2015 deal lifted sanctions on Iran in exchange for the country dismantling some of its nuclear program and allowing for extensive inspections. The U.S. believes Iran wants to develop a nuclear bomb. In other news, a New Jersey 3rd grader recently told her teacher that she didn't have enough to eat. She highlighted a problem at home and one that affects some 18 million children nationwide. CBS's Michael George has more.
A 3rd grade New Jersey girl burst into tears in the middle of her virtual class, confessing to teachers and fellow students that she was starving.
This 9-year-old just couldn't take it anymore.
That heartbreaking moment led an entire community to help, including New Jersey's former Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, who manages a food bank called Fulfill.
This family has been offered not only immediate food, but food for groceries for 6 months.
The girl's mother lost her restaurant job almost a year ago.
This is happening across America, not just to this young girl.
This is not only America, this is happening in your backyard.
As of January, 40 million people live in a family where at least one adult lacks paid work, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. And the number of American children facing food insecurity has doubled from 14% to 28% since 2019. About 80% of the families in Los Angeles school district were in poverty before the pandemic began. Food drives like this can be life-saving for mothers like Sarah Swager.
My son is in special ed, and I'm gonna cry. You know, having to work from home and having to do his school stuff. It's very hard.
President Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden toured a Houston food bank, a place working double time to meet the demands of a pandemic and a weather disaster. Those on the front line say America's hunger crisis will be a long fight.
Our hungry children are looking at 2 or 3 years, maybe longer, of need.
Food for thought for all Americans. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
And wrapping up our news this Monday, a large meteor blazed across UK skies last night, delighting those lucky enough to spot it. Take a look. More than 120 people reported seeing it. Astronomers say it was a fireball, which are particularly bright meteors that are even visible in daylight. Experts say several thousand fireballs occur in the Earth's atmosphere each day. However, most fall over the ocean or uninhabited areas. That is
spectacular.
Yeah.